So hello everybody. Thanks to be in this session. So this session, the subject for 1 hour will be to develop custom connectors for Microsoft Power Platform. My name is Gilles Pommier. I'm an Office 365 MVP, and I come from France. That's why I have a strong French accent. And that's why also I decided for this session to have more demos and less slides. I hope you will enjoy this because it will be easier for you to understand the step-by-step for custom connectors with demos. So that's why there will be a lot of demos in this session. The agenda for this session will be this one. So the goal is to create to cover all the way to create custom connectors. So I will show you how to create custom connectors for Power Apps, for Microsoft Flow, and for Power BI. Okay, so Power Apps on Microsoft Flow, as you will see, will be when you want to create custom connectors, will be specific to Power BI and Microsoft Flow, and it will be different if you want to create custom connectors for Power BI, and we will see the difference between both solutions. So first of all, as you know, we are working on the Microsoft Power Platform. So it's composed with Power BI, Power Apps, and Microsoft Flow. Power BI to do dashboard and things like that. Power Apps for citizen developers who want to create application without code for people who are not developers. And Microsoft Flow to do some automatic things everywhere in Office 365. So this is what we call the Microsoft Power Platform. Of course, with those 3 services, the goal is to create different type of application for Office 365, for standalone apps, for Dynamics 365 also. So all these different services can be used to create those type of application. And of course, you will need data connector, you need connection, you need services to connect to other services to include in your application. Okay? Power BI, Power Apps, and Flow, Microsoft Power Platform, is on Azure, of course. So, first thing for custom connectors. So, what is a connector? So, a connector is a wrapper around API. So, the main important thing in this slide is that you need to have API to create your connector. And so the first part of this session will be connector about Microsoft Flow and Power Apps first. And then the second part will be Power BI. And so the most important thing is to have API, and then with API you can create connector. Okay? So of course, you know that there is more than 2,000 cloud services connector that you can use on the Power Platform. So this is connector that are available and you can use in Flow, in Power Apps, and you can use cloud, you can use on-prem if you have data gateways, and things like that. So this is something that comes out of the box, and so you see that you have a lot of things that you can use out of the box. But the goal is to you can create custom connectors, so you can create your own connectors if you want to extend, or if the connector does not exist, then you can extend with a custom connector. Okay? So, I will start with the first demo. So, the first demo will be this one. I think, how many of you are developers? Okay, so there is a lot of developers, IT pros, few, and citizen developers, few also. So most of you are developers. So as a developer, you know that you use GitHub as a repository of your source code. In GitHub, so you create repositories. So I've got multiple repositories, and my first demo will be to show you how to put a message in an issue, to create a message in a repository like this. So I will use my GitHub to create a message, an issue here with a custom connector. So if I want to use, of course, I know that there is a GitHub connector. What I want to show you is the step-by-step and how easy it is to create the same if you want to do that. And you can apply what I will show in this demo with other solution, of course. So if I want to create a custom connector to create an issue here, the thing that I need to have is first to understand how to create an issue. That was what is important is to have a lot of documentation about the API. And with those API, for example, if I want to create an issue, and I see in the documentation that it's possible with, I have to use to post this command. I have different parameters like this. And this is an example of the command I can use. And this is the response that I will have. Okay, so this is the first step. You need to have API and documentation if you want to create your custom connectors. If I want to create a custom connectors for GitHub, the second thing which is important comes from the settings here. And if I go to the developer settings, I need to create an application like this. So this is an OAuth application. So that means that if I want to connect, I will have to provide an OAuth token, an OAuth mechanism. And I have created an application here. So the application is here to have a client ID and a client secret. Here, so this is an application created in GitHub, and I will use in my connector. To create a custom connector, so I have to go to Microsoft Flow, of course. And I have all my connectors here. And to create a custom connector, I have to go here and to use the custom connector option that is available here. And then, if I want to create a custom connector, I have the button here, create a custom connector. So I click on it. You see that I have different ways to create custom connector. I can create from scratch, blank, or I can import. In the second demo, I will show you how to import from a Postman collection, for example. But first, I will use this one. So I will have to give a name. So the name will be GitHub connector. I have to provide some information, so I can put an icon. I have to give a description, something like that, and then I have to choose my API. So if I go back to my OAuth, like this, and to my create an issue, then okay, so it is api.github.com, like this. And if I go to the security, so to the security, as I showed you before, I can have different type of authentication. So no authentication, basic authentication, API, or OAuth, like this. So in my case, I will use OAuth. And then, for my provider here, I will take the GitHub provider. So the GitHub provider needs a client ID. So the client ID will be this one. It will need a client secret. So I have my client secret here. The scope will be my repo, and I have a redirect URL that is important, but this redirect URL will be available for me when I will save and I will create the connector. So it's not available for now. Okay, and then I will go to the definition. So to the definition, I have to create some action. So I create action like this. I click on new action. Then the goal is for me, for this first demo, is to create an issue. So I just give a name, create and issue. Then I have to provide a description and an operation ID. So for the operation ID, I remove the extra space, like this. And what is important is I have to provide a request and a response. So for the request, I can import a sample, and the sample will be a get. And you see that my get will be the get with this format, like this. So I think I have, yes, this with the different parameters, like this. So I just cut and paste. It takes two parameters, the owner and the name of the repository, and then I can import. So this is something that I have and in the documentation. Here, exactly the same with the repo and the issue. And then it gives me those two parameters. And I have to provide the response. So if I click on response, then I can import a sample. And it is the same. If I go to the issue, you see that I have a sample here of a response. So the response will be a JSON format. So I will take this example. Like this. Back to my body. Just cut and paste my response and click on import. And you see that automatically it will give me all the parameters for me. Okay? Then I can create my connectors. And I can test it. So if I click on new connection, it will provide me a new connection for me. So the owner will be me. The repo will be, the repo will be, so if I go back to my different repository, DemoGP, like this. The issue. And this is okay. So my status is okay. So I think if I go back to my, oh yeah, sorry, it was yes, it was a post. Thank you. I'm a little bit tired, I think. So the definition, let's go back to the definition. Create an issue, like this. And in the request import, it will not be a get. Of course, it will be a post. Thank you. And then if I want to post, just post with those two parameters and import. I think it's okay. I'm just checking if the default is here. Okay, I update connectors. And if I test, yeah. So sorry, demo GP. Okay, so don't worry. I will take this demo 2 like this, which is exactly the same. If I edit api.github.com, if I go to the security, then it's auth, GitHub, client ID, client secret. It will provide me the redirect. And if I go to the definition, create issue, it's the same. Exist, and I have a request with owner and repro. And then if I want to test my solution, okay, so test. And then if I test the operation, then I think, yeah, oh, here it is. So if I want to use this in my flow, I just have to click on my flow, and then I will create a new flow, create from blank. And I just need to have a trigger. A button, and I can run manually a trigger, and I can add an input. So the input will be the issue. And when I click on the new step, you see that if I'm looking for demo 2, which is there, I can use it. It works me the same for my owners, for my repo, and then I can provide a title, so new bug, for example, and the body will come from my trigger here, so I can take the issue and then save. Demo GP. Yeah, will be better, thank you. And then it's saving. Come on. Okay, it's still saving. Okay, it's saved. So if I want to test, I click on continue. So I hope it will work. So this is a new bug. I'll run the flow. And it thinks it's okay. If I go back to my repository and I refresh, you see my new bugs come here. So this is the way I will use my custom connector from Microsoft Flow. Okay? So it was my first demo. If I go back to the slide, so why do we build a connector like we did? So the goal is to have more services available for me, for my enterprise developer or for my business users who will need to have custom connectors, for example, to internal service. Or if I'm partner ESV and I want to provide a way to give extensibility for my services with a custom connector. Okay, so the first thing was to build the custom connector. So I have My next demo, of course, because I want to show you how to use the custom connector with Power Apps. So for Power Apps demo, I will do something else. The goal is to use the Yelp service for the next demo. So Yelp service is a service that you can use it will provide some information about everything, and you provide the location, and it will give you a lot of answers. So I want to use this service as a connector. So if I want to use that, I have first to connect to the Yelp service to log in. And when I'm logged to the service, it's nearly the same. I have to manage an app. So manage app means that you have to connect an app with a client ID and an API key. And then you've got a lot of API available for you. So you've got API to search, phone search, and things like that. I want to use the search API. So for the search API, you see that I've got the GET request. So this is a GET for now. And I have different parameters, term, location, latitude, longitude, and things like that. And if I want to know how to start, then I've got some information. Sorry. Here in the introduction. In the introduction, what is interesting is that they provide a lot of information, but they provide Postman collection. So Postman collection, Postman is a tool. If you don't know yet, you should try Postman because it's a tool you use to create requests and to different APIs. So this is a tool that I use a lot to test API, to know how is the response and things like that. And Yelp provide a collection that I can run in Postman. So I will show you how it works. If I click on the link, it says, yes, I want to run Postman on Windows. Because the previous example is just a simple example. It's just a simple example with one action, and you want to provide a connector for this. But if you want more, then the goal is to have a tool like Postman, when you can have a lot of connection, action, and things you can do. And with Postman, you can test a lot of things. So my collection is here, and you see that there is, I will replace it. So you see there is a lot of action that I can use. So I want to use the search like this. So the search, you see, will provide term, latitude, longitude. But if I first click on the send, like this, with this sample, it will not work because there is no authentication. So I need to provide authentication in the headers. So I have to put the header, so there is authorization and the value here, and the value will be a concatenation of this and my key. So I just have to go back to get my key, which is here. And I take my key. I'm go back to Postman. I paste my key here, and then I can send my request. And you see that I have an answer. So this answer will provide me information. The problem is this is information from San Francisco. So it would not be very interesting for us for now. So if I go to the parameters and I go back to the definition, you saw that if I use the search, I have the location that is available for me. So that's the goal of Postman. Postman will help you to test different parameters. So if I want to do something and I don't want the latitude and longitude, but I have to replace with a parameter location Amsterdam, for example, and I send. And I want to search for the term restaurant, for example. Restaurant in Amsterdam. Then you see I have the list of the restaurants that are available for me in Amsterdam. Okay? So the goal of Postman is to test the API, test the different parameters, and when you are ready, what is interesting is you can take your collection and you can say export, and it will be possible to import in Flow. So I export, I give a name, so I know I have already information, so I give another name. So my collection is exported, and I can go back to Microsoft Flow, to my custom connectors. I can create a new one, create a custom connector, but this time I will import a Postman collection. Okay, so I can import my Postman collection, which is this one. Demo ignite help. Continue. Then it will provide automatically the API, so I can put an icon and things like that. If I go back to the security, then the security this way will be a key, an API key. So the key I have to provide, so I have to provide the key at the connection, so that's why I provide a label here, which will be the key. The parameter name, I'm not sure. Okay, just let me check something, just to not to waste time. And the connector, custom connector. Okay, so just go back. So authorization. The parameters will be authorizations. Okay, parameters will be in the headers. And then you see that I have all the different methods that was available in my collection. So I just want to focus on the search. So this one. So the other I will remove for this demo. The review I will remove, and the transaction I will remove. So I just keep the search here. So it's the same as we did before. I will have a name, a description, an operation ID. Then my import from sample will be a get, and I can take my query that I've tested here and paste and import. So you see that it took the two parameters, times and location, automatically for me. And then if I have to provide also the format of the response, and I can import from a sample. So I have two options. I can import from Postman. Here is the answer. Or I can use documentation. So in the documentation, they provide me the response body, so I can use this one, which is shorter. Okay. Here. So the JSON is not valid because in the article they put those extra information. If I remove it, then I can import. And I have all the parameters that are available for me. Okay, so I can create my connectors. Sorry? Because in Postman, it provides all the different parameters in the documentation. So that's why you automatically, when you paste the response with the JSON parameters, it takes all the parameters in the JSON and create a parameter for that. In Power Collection, it gives me a way to have all the different actions that are available in my collection. So the goal of Postman, for me, with a collection, is not to have just an individual operation, but I can create multiple operations, get, post, for example. And when it's ready in Postman collection, I just have to export, and I will have automatically all the parameters available in the import. And I can, like I'm doing here for one operation, I can change the parameter or do something else. But if everything is OK in Postman, then I just paste, and that's OK. Yeah. Yeah. And these two things with Postman, to do that and to test manually the API before creating my custom connector. Then I can test here, so I need a new connection. So it will need an API key, so it was the same as I did in Postman. So I can take this parameter here, okay, new connection, paste, create connection, like this. And if I'm looking for restaurant in Amsterdam, and test the operation, so authorization doesn't seem to be OK. Sorry? OK, so I will take this one, which I have in my notepad. OK, sorry. Oh, yeah, it's missing the H. OK, so authorization. Thank you. I update my connector. Yeah, that's better. It's because I'm French. In French, this is autorisation, not with an H. No, sorry, I'm kidding. So this is the result, and you see that it will give me all the restaurants in Amsterdam, so it's the same. How to use this connector now in Power Apps, because it was the goal, to use it in Power Apps. If I go to Power Apps, yeah. No, it used the association between the key and the application ID and the key. And the key is unique. So that's why it asks me for the connections to give the authorization key. And the key is global in Yelp. That's the way it works. So it will work for everybody. No, in the Yelp, the key is unique. So this is the key of the application. So the application can be used by everybody. Okay. So it will be. So in Power Apps now, if I go to View and Data Source, then I can add a data source. And if I search for a new connection, Demo Ignite Yelp, you see that is available for me. So I can use it. It asks me for the API key. So that's what I told you. The API key is something unique. So that's why I've created, and there is only one key. It must be pasted here to use my connector. And if I create, then my connector is available here. So if I want just to insert in the gallery something like this, and I will provide here an input text, and the second one for the term and for the location. So I just put here some default value, restaurant, for example, and for this one, Amsterdam. I can do something else, but it's just for testing purpose. Like this. And if I take my gallery, the goal is to replace the item with the custom gallery sample here. And I have my Yelp share.business search, and it will ask me for the location, the term and the location. So I will provide here the term, which is the input text1.text. And the location will be the text input to.text. And what I want is the businesses, like this. And let me something. Oh yeah, right. That's it. So I have to modify here the information because, for example, here I will want to have this item dot name, for example, and for this one, this item dot phone, for example, and for this one will be this item dot image URL, like this. And that's it. So if I want to test it, I just modify and choose a theme to be a little bit more beautiful. And then I just run. And here we go. So this is the restaurant. So if I want to, for example, to have the museum, here is the museum. Is it great? Yeah? Thank you. With your help, of course. Okay, so it was those two demos. The first one was to create an issue in a GitHub repository. So this was a post command. This one was a get to get information from a service, create a connector, and then use it in Power Apps. The previous one he was using in Microsoft Flow. And you see that this is something very easy. If you don't do mistake with authorization and things like that. And this is the way that you can use, you can create custom connector that use different services and use it in your Power BI, in your Power Platform. So to use in Power Apps and to use in Microsoft Flow. So just to give you a little more input about something that I'm using a lot, and you need to be careful or be aware of what you are doing, is, for example, if you want to create custom connector that is using Office 365 API, like Graph API. I'm using a lot of Graph API, and the way I'm using a Graph API, if you are a developer, you know what I mean. First, you have to create an application in Azure. Okay, so just to show you. Sorry? Yeah. They have to provide the key, because the key is a parameter that I need to provide when I'm using my connector, so I need to provide this information. Yeah, when you use the connector, you saw that I have to provide this information with the key. No, if you start the app, there is no problem. You start the app because okay, just let me show one slide. I tell you that I don't want to have much slide because I prefer to have demo, but just to show you this. For the architecture, you have Microsoft Flow and Power Apps application on one side. On the other side, you've got your API, like this. When you have your API, the goal is to create a connector, a custom connector, and the custom connector will be stored in the cloud in the API Management Gateway by Microsoft. And this API Management Gateway works like this. There is a custom connector, and when you use the connector, it will store automatically your token in a token store. Here, when you create your application, the token will be stored in the token store in the cloud. So when the user, and then when the token is stored here, then you can use the different action independently, because the token is here, so the user will not have to provide a token. It's stored automatically. Yeah. Yeah, the same that I did when I was creating my Power Apps application. But it can be a token created by a user of another company, which has created a user login in the Yelp directory and create an app and use this token for my connector. So the connector the token is independent. I just have to provide a connector to be authenticated to the service. So what I want to show you now is the way why I'm using custom connector in Flow. One common example. The common example is Graph API. If you want to use Graph API, you know that you have to create an application in Azure. So to create an application in Azure, for example, I will use this one, the Test API PowerShell, like this. And in Azure, this application, if I go to the settings, will have permission to access to Microsoft Graph. Okay, so this application is independent. This application has the different authorization, and I give the authorization to access to Graph. Okay? The second thing that I want to show you, if you are mostly you are developers, you know that if you want to use Graph API, one tool which is very interesting is a Graph Explorer. If you type Graph Explorer in Google, then you come to this website and you can test the Graph API. So for example, if I want to have my profile, I just have to connect and run the query. And then I have my different information, or if I want my photo, for example, like this. So one example, if I want to have all the group in my organization, so if I want to have all the group in my organization, the query will be this one. And I test it with Graph Explorer. And you see what I want to do. I have the response here available for me. And this response, it will be possible to take this response and paste in my definition in the custom connector, of course. So this is some tips that I want to show you if you have to use the Graph API. But, of course, I don't want to provide my credential, so that's why I'm using an Azure application. And this Azure application is the application that you will connect to Graph API to get the data. Okay? So if I want to use that before using a connector, one way to use that is to use that in a PowerShell script. I'm always using a PowerShell script to test different things, because I know that if in my PowerShell script it works, then I can take the piece of my PowerShell script to paste or to use in the different module or services I want. So with this, in this script PowerShell, what I want is the client ID. I have also a client secret, and I creating a token like this with the body, with the authentication to create the header, and then to invoke my query. So you see, if I want to invoke my query to get my different groups, it is here. So this is the same query that I have in my Graph Explorer here. So if I want to use it in my script, I just run this. The client secret, I think, so this is at the end. Okay, so I create my token with this command, which is logged to Graph and to my tenant. I will create my headers like this, and then I can invoke my groups. So this is just the call to invoke my groups in PowerShell. So it gives me the answer of my different groups. No, it will be the answer groups are available. If I want to provide the list of the different groups, so it is not exactly the groups, it will be filter for the teams. So this is the same query, but there is a filter to get only the teams of my tenant. And if I run that, then you see I have all the teams in my tenant. If I want to do the same in Microsoft Flow, of course, I can do something like this. If I go back to my flow, and I click on the team flow, I have a demo graph that I used yesterday. And just to show you, if it's okay in my PowerShell script, then it will be exactly the same. Okay, come on. In my flow, I need to have the client ID, I need to have the client secret, so I need my tenant ID, and then I have my query that I store in a variable like this. So I have my graph query available here, and then I need to have a process to do the authentication. So for the authentication, the only thing that I want to show you is this: is that you need to do exactly what I've done in my PowerShell script. The URL is a login. Then I need to provide the client ID, the client secret, and it will give me a JSON result that I have to parse to create my headers. And then I will use the result here of the body. For example, to get the groups. So to get the groups, I have the URL of the groups here that is stored in my variable, but I need the token and the access token, the token type, and the token type comes from the previous action. So this is something a little bit difficult to do. If you need to have multiple actions to access Graph API, you see that if you use this method, it can, so it's not easy because an end user will not be able to do that. And the second problem is that you always need to do the authentication in your script, then store the Graph API URL, give the parameters, and things like that every time. So, and that's why an easiest way, of course, I will not do the demo because I'm running out of time and I want to show you the Power BI, but of course you understand that if I'm creating a custom connector, which is here, and I edit. So my custom connector to access to Graph API, the host will be this one, of course. I will need to provide an Azure Active Directory provider, and then put my client ID, my client secret, of course. My resource URL will be graph.microsoft.com here. And be careful because you have to put the redirect URL to your Azure application. Also, you will check for that if there is some problems. And in my definition, if I want to get all the groups, then my query is this one. And if I want to get the response, then the only thing I have to do is to cut and paste this result that I have from the Graph Explorer and to put it in my response. Yeah. And if I just want to test this, so I already created a connection, and if I want to test, you see that the result, I have all my groups available, so it is exactly the same. Okay? So just this last demo on the custom connector for Microsoft Flow and Microsoft Power Apps. Just an example, if you want to connect to some specific API like Microsoft Graph and the methodology I'm using in my project. So for this one, usually I'm starting from the Graph Explorer, then I'm testing in PowerShell. I'm creating, of course, an application in Azure. And when this is OK, then I'm creating a custom connector. And I will never use what I show you in the previous Microsoft Flow, because the Microsoft Flow with the HTTP request and things like that is too difficult for an end user, a business user. So it's OK for the developers, and for the developers have to create a custom connector after that. OK? So if there is any other question, I will answer after the session. I just want to show you some things about the Power BI connectors. What I can tell you about your custom connector is first, the most important is that you have to understand the API of the service. Okay, you have different type authentication, and you have to define your different operation. Okay. So I want to show you something about the Power BI connectors because it's different. The Power BI connectors, the goal is to use a custom connector. There is different goal for that. First of all, maybe you want to add new data source to Power BI. So if you want to add new data source, you need to have a custom connector. Then maybe you want to have a better friendly view of the REST API for your business users. So a custom connector will be interesting for them also. If you can implement authenticated flow, so custom connector will be interesting also for that. Or you want to provide specific building blocks to deliver an app or a content pack that the user will take and in this Power BI, and everything works and that's fine. So the way you do that is to create a custom connector. If you want to have directory with a DBC, so this is the demo I want to show you. You can use also a custom connector or if you want to impress your friends also, you can create a custom connector. How it works? So it's different from the previous connector, because if you want to create a custom connector for Power BI, you need to use Visual Studio for that. There is not yet a connector that will be created for Power BI that works with Microsoft Flow, Power BI, and Power Apps. So for Power BI, you have to use Visual Studio. And just like if you use Visual Studio, that it will create a solution, a project for you. You can import it, and you can use it as a custom data source, and then provide this for your users. So I have my Visual Studio here with one sample. So this sample is available at the end of the slides if you want to redo the demo after the session. The goal, if you install the SDK, the Power Query SDK, then it will provide to you a new type of project. I'm not sure I will show you because it will close this one. Okay, new type of project. Just want to show you is the Power Query data connector project. And if you use this one, it will create a new data connector project and empty, and you can use it to create your own solution. So for this connector is using a local database, which is localhost, and with my database, we can show you here. There is a local database in my computer, and this connector is connected to this local database. When you create your solution with Visual Studio, you can create, for example, unit test here. So this unit test, you can start, and you can test your solution. And this is a testing purpose. And when you build your solution, what is important is you create in the binary folder, in the debug, you create a maze file. This maze file, you have to take this file and to put in your document Power BI desktop custom connector. And you have to put this connector here. Cut and paste here your maze file. The maze file is just a zip file. Okay, so this is a zip file you provide here. And then when you have provided this zip file, if I run Power BI desktop, come on. Wow. So if I get data with more data, and if I going to, so it is wide war important. So the source is available here, so it is exactly the same as another source. If I click on continue, here it is. So this is my data. Data is available for me. Come on. With the dimension, for example, I take only one and load this one. So it works exactly the same as another data source. And I will have the data. And so I can use the direct query here because I use a ODBC driver. So the direct query is available for me. So if I click on OK, you will see that it works. And I will have all my data available to create a report. Okay? Just because it's the end of the session, I want to show you this. because it's an on-prem solution. So if you want to use it in Power BI, you have Power BI, I mean the service. You have to provide the data gateway. So you know that the data gateway can be installed from the Power BI menu, and then you can install the data gateway. And the data gateway, here there is a connector here available, and you will check for the connector that here are available. So you need to have a path for your custom connector. So you see that my custom connector is available. And this way, if it's okay, then I can publish. So I can create a report like this, but you know how to do that. This is not a Power BI session, so I do something very simple. And then I can publish my solution, save and publish my solution, and it will work because I have my data gateway. Okay, so just querying. So here is my data available. I publish in my workspace, for example. And then it will publish my solution to Power BI and to Power BI service, and it will work. Maybe it will take some time, so I just want to finish with my. It's okay, so that's okay. Got it. Open in Power BI. So if I go to my workspace, so I don't remember the name I gave. Test. Test will be this one. Oh, so I got a gateway problem. Great. Okay, should work. Sorry. So maybe I have to check my data. It should work. You need to provide your gateway to get your data in Power BI, and the gateway only needs to run on my computer and then provide the path to the MIS file, and then the data gateway will be used to put the data. Okay, so how it works. So you need to have the SDK. You have to test in Power BI Desktop. Then you need to use the data gateway, and you can share them to your users. Okay, so this is the step-by-step you can use. Okay, so the time is up, so I have to finish now. If you have any question, then I can answer question outside here, because I need to let the floor to the other session. And so I hope you learn a lot about custom connectors and different situations where you can use custom connectors in Power BI, in Power Apps, in Microsoft Flow, and the way that I'm working with custom connector on my own project, and the way to use Postman and things like that. And I hope you saw that it was something very easy to create custom connectors, and the only thing that is difficult is to have the API and the documentation about the API you want to get information from. Okay? So thank you very much.